I'm really grateful and honored to be making photos, but I really am trying to like each day, like, how am I going to do something new and different but staying 6 feet away from people? How am I going to do something new and different? And how am I going to take care of myself today?
Welcome to the Saginaw Art Museum podcast. The COVID-19 pandemic is altering the usual routines of people around the globe and around the block. As practices of social distancing and self-quarantine are implemented, artists are finding new ways to adapt to the changing landscape. In this series, Art at Home, we have conversation with artists and creative-minded individuals to understand the way these unusual times are impacting lives. Josie Norris is a visual storyteller in her role as a photojournalist for the San Antonio Express News while finishing her coursework at Central Michigan University. She shares what it is like to be on the front lines of trying to communicate a global story locally using photographs with such serious proximity limitations. This interview was recorded on March 26, 2020.
Hello.
Hi, is this Josie?
Yes, this is she.
Hey, how are you?
I was just sitting on my porch eating some dinner. How are you?
Not too bad. You're living in San Antonio, Texas right now. You're a native of Michigan.
Yeah, so I was born in Saginaw Township, born in the city of Saginaw, and then grew up in the township, and then moved to St. Charles when I was a teenager. So kind of have lived all over Saginaw County.
So are you still a student at Central Michigan?
Yes, I am completing my last online class right now, actually.
Okay.
I have been working full-time and finishing up my last class online.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about where San Antonio is at in terms of the coronavirus. Is Texas, at the time of this recording, do you have stay-at-home orders, or are people moving about freely?
So it's interesting because the state of Texas, from what I understand, is that, so it's not a statewide order. It's kind of up to various cities, like what they want to do. San Antonio announced a stay-at-home order. Just a second, I'm pulling up my fact sheet to make sure that I am giving you the right information. Stay-at-home order earlier this week, and which just limits non-essential travel. Basically, you can go get gas, you can go get groceries, you can go to the doctor, and that's it. It's been kind of on other essential, quote unquote essential businesses are staying open, but some of the businesses kind of murky water as to like what is considered essential. Drive-through businesses are they're part of the essential category. So Whataburger, which is a Texas favorite, they're still open and making burgers. And a lot of restaurants have gotten really creative with how they're serving customers. I photographed for the San Antonio Express News where I work. I photographed a couple different restaurants that have turned their spaces into grocery stores for consumers. There's been a lot of panic. I don't know if that's common in Michigan, but toilet paper has been a very hot commodity. Rice and beans here has been like flying off the shelves. And of course, like cleaning products like Clorox wipes and Lysol have also been going really fast. Also eggs. Eggs were this week. I've heard from multiple people that they've been really hard to find. But in terms of the deaths in Bexar County, which San Antonio sits, there has been 5 deaths. And that started this increase from, we had 2 deaths as of Wednesday, and it rose to 5 today on Thursday, which when we're talking. So we have 113 cases, which is an increase from 29 from Wednesday, the largest daily increase so far. 43 are travel related and 39 are from community transmission. So those numbers are getting a little neck and neck here. So I, as a journalist, I'm considered one of those essential workers. I actually have a letter outlining what I'm doing and like why journalism is essential from the publisher of the paper that I have been carrying around every time I go out to assignment. And so in terms of, I haven't seen much changes. I mean, the traffic is a little bit lighter. I've gone to a couple assignments that have been around rush hour, and normally they would take me much longer to get to, but because traffic is lighter, I get places quicker. I've also noticed when I've been out biking, there's fewer cars to worry about. But so that means that people are staying home, which is very, very good, and not going to work if they don't have to, or doing other things. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been seeing here.
As a central position there, as a photojournalist, a journalist, how have you been able to approach this story differently, or are you approaching it differently than you have other assignments? What kinds of challenges is it presenting in the coverage? Are you finding that you're needing to work in a unique way?
Yes, it's hard. I was thinking back, like about a month ago was when I started doing the majority of my assignments went from like the daily general news coverage, kind of just a little bit of everything, to being more coronavirus specific. In the beginning, it's a very challenging story visually. There's a lot of numbers, but we're not like the photographers and other visual storytellers aren't necessarily getting access to hospitals, which has always been the case, but like getting access to figuring out like, how do we tell this story? Like, we can't go into hospitals and photograph patients. Photographing testing has been really tough. I went to a testing center and I was told that I couldn't be there. I couldn't photograph the testing center, a drive-through testing center. So I give a lot of credit to my editors who have been really creative in trying to figure out how to best visually tell the story. I think one of the biggest challenges, and kind of scary to be honest, is that a lot of the times reporters can do their jobs remotely, like those who are writing the story. They can call people, they can interview on the phone. It's not going to be as good as like going out and seeing it firsthand, but they can kind of make it work in most cases. But photographers, like, I can't do my job from my couch, or from my home. My couch just happens to be where I do most of my work. So going out and being around people has been a little nerve-wracking. I think there's definitely, I feel like with everybody, like there was a moment where things like, it's like, oh, this is real. Like, this is going to be a really big issue in my community. This is going to be a really big story. And when that corner is turned, I feel like my bosses and like my colleagues and I started taking a lot more precautions with how we were doing our jobs. So the things that I've been trying really hard to work on is I've been trying to stay as far away as possible. So like trying to maintain that 6 feet distance. I've been using my 70 to 200 lens a lot. I carry a 24 to 70 and a 70 to 200, and I've been trying to use my 70 to 200 a lot more. So that means that's making me like step back, be further away from people. In times and like spaces where I want to be like kind of an enclosed space with people, I've been wearing a simple mask. Like, granted, I know it's not medical grade, but it's a barrier that keeps me from touching my face and hopefully helps like the droplets, respiratory droplets from going on to other people. So staying away. And I keep my gear in a rubber tote in the back of my car, and I sanitize both cameras every time I finish an assignment, and then every night I've been wiping them down again, keeping them in the tub. And then every time I come home from an assignment, I take off all my clothes that I wore on my assignment, and then I take a shower, washing my hair and really rigorously washing with soap and hot water, everything else, trying to keep possibly anything that I came in contact with outside my house from settling inside my house. I've been also carrying water in the back of my car, so I've been washing my hands rather than just sanitizing as well.
Well, that's pretty interesting because for what I know of photojournalism, part of sort of the nature of capturing a story is being close. If your photo isn't good, then you have to get closer. And this is the precise opposite of that, where you jeopardize your health and the health of the people around you if you become a carrier. That's quite a different outlook.
That's something that yeah, I think something that I've been thinking about a lot is the fact that like there's a different weight that me and my fellow photojournalists out there are putting onto people. So like before it was like it's really intimidating to have your picture taken by a stranger, and so like there's like a lot of emotional weight to that. But even more so now, like me, like going into a space as me as a photojournalist, like after coming into contact with so many people during a work day, no matter how many precautions I'm taking, I'm still posed a risk. So that is trying to acknowledge that like, even though I am like emotionally and mentally drained when I get home from work, I'm putting a weight, like if not a heavier weight, on the people that I'm photographing and being around, because I pose a risk, which is something that I've definitely had a few nights where that kind of like I went into this like anxiety spiral of like, am I doing enough? How do I keep people safe? Like, how do I do my job? And my bosses have been really great, and they like understand like pictures are going to look different. Like we're going to be turning in a lot. Me and my colleagues are going to be turning in a lot more telephoto lens photos, and being further away. But they're still challenging us to look for intimacy in new and more creative ways.
Yeah.
So they've been pretty understanding. Yeah.
What does it feel like to be documenting this sort of worldwide pandemic, on the global scale that's happening, mm-hmm. but also at a local level, trying to tell the story specific to your community? How do you balance that?
I feel like a solidarity, because I know a lot of my close photo friends, like, we're working at newspapers and other news organizations. Like we're all kind of doing the same thing. Like we're all struggling with the same stuff. One of the photographers I worked with when I interned at the San Francisco Chronicle this past summer, Jessica Christian, she's been doing incredible work in the Bay Area documenting coronavirus. And we've had some really good conversations of like both of us freaking out, but like talking to another person who like gets your fears and anxieties of doing this job that I feel so passionate about and I love so much. So it's created this like it feels like a solidarity. I wish it definitely was under different circumstances, but this new level of community, I feel. And then in terms of like documenting San Antonio, I think I'm trying to find new ways of like finding new ways to visualize like what does coronavirus change in San Antonio. So like one of the big things is it postponed Fiesta, which is a really big party celebration here in San Antonio, in April. Like that got pushed to November. So I photographed like a Fiesta party store and like working with my bosses to find angles of like specific things. And like I spent a lot of time walking on the Riverwalk in downtown. And so there was 3 pictures. I like when I first took the first photo, I wasn't even thinking about it as like a series, but like the first photo of the Riverwalk, like when the pandemic started getting kind of real in San Antonio, like becoming a bigger reality in San Antonio, and it was full of people eating along the Riverwalk. And then a couple days later, I went back to the same spot on a bridge downtown and photographed the same tables, and there's a little less people. And then at the end of that week, I went to the same spot, and all the tables at that point, the restaurants had been closed for dine-in. And so knowing that the Riverwalk is a very big symbol of San Antonio, that was one way I was able to encapsulate like how this kind of like non-visual, but like very big and scary virus has impacted such a landmark in San Antonio. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Considering this is, in some respects, once in a lifetime, Lord willing, kind of event, to be able to capture that and document it for the future has got to be a pretty interesting thing to think about as well, sort of as a creative storyteller, where your photographs fit into the story of our country and of the world.
I try not to think too much. I've been trying to not think about like the big, like once in a lifetime thing. I think I psych myself out when I think about like the really big picture. But I definitely I'm honored to like be in this position where I am making these photos that are just they're a part of this visual story of San Antonio in 2020. I'm really grateful and honored to be making these photos, but I really am trying to like each day, like, how am I going to do something new and different while staying 6 feet away from people? How am I going to do something new and different? And how am I going to take care of myself today that I don't get stuck into like an anxiety spiral over all these things that I cannot control? So it's been like a balance, like not thinking too much about the bigger picture. Like I know it's in the back of my mind, but also like day to day, like how can I make the best photos I possibly can at this assignment, even though I'm facing all these challenges? And how do I take care of myself? Those have been the two big things that I've been thinking about.
Have you found some sort of stress relieving activities or other creative activities that you're using to balance out the intensity of the assignments that you're on?
Yeah. So I have been starting to ride my bike. I've been doing like 17 miles every other day, and then doing like long, fast-paced walks. So I've been doing exercise. I'm really grateful that I found a therapist before all this happened. So I'm still seeing I'm seeing a therapist, and that's been really wonderful. Another thing that I've been doing is I've been actually working on a self-portrait project since the beginning of the year, like photographing and documenting myself living alone for one of the first times here in San Antonio. So I've been taking a lot of photos and incorporating feelings of like the quarantine and like the uncertainty that's outside of my house has definitely added to that. So I try every day to make like one photo that I'm happy with. And let's see what else I journal. I've been doing yoga before bed and meditation and reading. I got a huge stack of books from the library before it closed. And yeah, that's kind of been it.
Well, that's quite an adventure that you're having there. And I'm grateful for what you're doing and the work that you're sharing sort of with your community and the broader community. And I wish you all the best and stay safe out there.
Thank you. Keep washing your hands and your camera.
Thank you for listening to the Saginaw Art Museum podcast. You can stay connected with the museum through our website and social media channels. We invite you to become a subscriber of this podcast or become a monthly contributor to the show to help us carry out our mission of providing art for all.